Welcome back to another Canon Quick Shot, a quick review of a non-comic book or superhero movie. I'm your host, Terry. Today I'm reviewing Creed 2, starring Michael B. Jordan, Tessa Thompson, Sylvester Stallone, all them, you know. Creed 2, the sequel to Creed, a movie that I thought was pretty solid and then took on a life of its own, was very popular, people. I'm not the biggest fan of Creed. Like I said, I thought it was decent. Actually, funny enough, it was the first movie I saw with my movie pass, so that was way back in the day. But pretty good movie. Again, people liked it a lot more than I did. And I would say just, apathetic to the sequel. Again, after the first ones, whatever, and then you heard the story about Drago, and it was like, okay, we know cause it was already a little, I don't know, it was a little just cheesy to say, okay, we got this movie Creed about the son of Apollo and how Rocky trains him after his dad, it was just like, okay, a little cheesy. But then this was just super cheesy. It was like, oh no, the son of Creed is gonna fight the son of Drago who killed his dad. It was very Saturday morning cartoon, but it was one that, you knew would be a decent movie. And I think it turned out to be a decent movie. I would say I knew this movie front and back before I even stepped in the theater. And that's okay though. It was a very old recipe, but that recipe makes some good food. So I was cool with it. I thought it was a really solid movie, and I actually preferred a little bit over the first Creed because while there's a lot of the same stuff from Creed, they do get a little more mature with some of the stuff, and I don't want to it's not even a big spoiler, but I don't want to blatantly spoil it. I just think he's at a more mature point in his life, even though he has the exact same shortcomings he has in the first one. And so that's one of the hard things with sequels, especially sports and all that. It's like, it's this road to triumph in the first one. And then in the second one, they always like knock him back down. Not inadvertently, or like, oh, I got beat and now I got to start back over. Like that's real. But they get beat because they had the same bad attitude or the same, shortcomings that they had in the first one. And so that gets annoying to me because it was like, didn't you learn this lesson already? Why are we doing this again? So there's a little bit of that, but like I said, some of the content gets a little more mature. And it was good. It was good. It was a good sports movie. I think that the fighting was nowhere near as good as Ryan Coogler. So Ryan Coogler did not return for this one. It was a new director, a friend of his, I believe, but the fighting was just kind of very cinematic, especially if you're a sports fan. Like, it's hard to watch boxing and MMA type stuff because it's like almost playing a video game. A lot of times I love playing the UFC games, but it's like, this is so fake. Nobody takes this many direct hits in a real fight. Like, you could just keep head kicking, and the person doesn't go down. I'm like, in a real fight, one head kick, two head kick, they'll be done. Same thing with boxing. It's like, okay, to make it dramatic, he's got to get all these hits. But I'm like, in a real boxing match, there's so many rounds where they don't even really land any hits like that. And so that part is a little cheesy. And I just felt like the up close one shot nature of it from Ryan Coogler in the first one made it a little more digestible, but this one was straight cinematic, so it wasn't as believable, but it was still good. It was still pretty good. And yeah, the only other thing I would say is that I didn't really believe in like some of the stuff they did, physically, because like of course, to set up the first fight to set up the loss, it's like, it's gotta be dramatic. It's gotta be big. And so, of course, in the movie, we got to beat him to within an inch of his life. And it's like, okay, well, if that happened, I don't care what training you did for 6 months because you started to run out in the desert or started to punch some tires. All of a sudden, your body miraculously is stronger, and can take those punches, or that, what I'm saying? Like, you're quicker. Like, no, like, I think they did a decent job with some of the time jumps. But in sports, this is one thing I always get frustrated with. Make it a long jump. I know you don't want to. You don't want it to seem like, oh, he's been gone forever. But realistically, that's what you would have to do. you would have to go for at least a year to reconfigure your body, to heal it, to train, to get better. Like, you wouldn't be able to just turn around in a few months, go against somebody that beat you almost to the inch of your life, and then all of a sudden you just way better than them. It don't work that way. So that was a little unbelievable. That hurt my suspension of disbelief. But then on top of that, they make it so dramatic. It's like, okay, yes, his dad died in the ring. That's a choice they made with that movie. But then they make it seem like in this movie, well, every fight is somebody might die. I'm like, that's not how boxing is. So if that was the case, people would have been stopped boxing. So that's obviously not the case. He's been fighting all these times, and all of a sudden, cause he's fighting Drago's son, every fight is gonna be him about to die. It's like, okay, that's too much. But other than that, solid movie. Good holiday movie. Decent for the family too. So, overall, I give it an 85 out of 100. That's a B. And yeah, pretty much liked it. So go to the comment section. Let me know if you saw Creed 2. How'd you feel about it? If you want to see it, what are you expecting? Thumbs up, subscribe, share it around, get the convo started. And remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.